Hi guys, nice to have you again. And well, what have you been doing? Well, it's been a while since we reviewed a movie, and well, I saw this amazing movie just a few days ago, and I've been very impatient to bring it and share with you guys. All right, well, it was this is the story of Breath of Life, and of course, on this channel there's always spoilers. Yes, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, right ahead. Okay, this movie, Breath of Life, is written and directed by Bibi Sasore and produced by Eku Edewo. Well, Eku Edewo is Nigerian-born half-caste actress, and now honestly an amazing debut. I don't know if this is her debut, maybe I stand corrected, but she's done a fantastic job producing this beautiful film. It is all about this main character, who is Ayodele Timileyin Johnson, and well, it starts off with a story, or well, a narration about who Ayodele Timileyin is, and some of the things he had achieved in his life. It was said that he was an outstanding person, an outstanding student, a world-class swimmer, actually the unofficial world record holder for swimming, and he had lived and gone to school in Cambridge for a while. And he finally returns to Nigeria with his beautiful wife, okay, which was who was acted by Eku Edewo, and their beautiful daughter. They settle into village life, but they came with quite some nice ideas. This was around 1933 or thereabout, when the British government was just about settling in / leaving, so to speak. So you can see what it looks like in that day. Well, it's said that there was a terror. There's this guy who has been terrorizing the village, and well, he's called Baby Fire. Is that Baby? Yeah, Baby Fire. And well, quite an interesting character. And I wonder why, he was made to bleat like a goat. Every time he was angry, he would go, and like that. Anyway, it was quite, colorful. Well, the Reverend, Ayodele Timileyin Johnson had become a man of God, a reverend. He had put up his church, over there in his village, and one of these days he was just up and about, and he witnesses a gruesome murder of a gang band. Of course, Baby Fire goes trigger happily shooting somebody who they say has offended the gang for one reason or the other. But unfortunately for them, or fortunately or unfortunately, he had been sitting in a corner and watching what went down. He watched the guy actually shot, should I say, executed by the gang. And well, when it comes to the family and the village members were trying to find out who it was that could could come and be a witness in the court against the gang. And well, when they had gone around, and it was clear that even the police, who happened to be somewhere around, were not going to do it, the new reverend in town, Reverend Timi, decided that he was going to be the witness. And well, that caused all sorts of trouble for him at home. His wife, pleaded, begged him, don't do this. That this is going to bring a lot of trouble to the family. This is going to take away our peace. In response to that, he says, okay, fine. What his own solution is to drive, to take his daughter and his wife and fly them back to England, while he decides to stay back and face whatever consequences would come from him going to court. So there he does it. He goes to court. He points out Baby Fire, who starts to bleat as usual. Well, well, he points him out, and he, well, it is now that we find out that Baby Fire is not just a gang leader and a nuisance in the community. He is also the major, what would you call him, hitman for the leftover people in the British government who use Baby Fire to eliminate whoever it is that upset them. Now, what would you expect? The judge is a British guy. The person who hired Baby Fire is also British, and well, needless to say, just like many other films, like in the story of Emmett Till and others, he's let loose without any consequences. They say that they do not have enough evidence against him. Can you even imagine that? Well, let's move on. Well, Timi had witnessed a murder, and his wife is on the way out of town, and well, here comes Baby Fire and his gang. They of course kidnap Reverend Timi. They tie him up, of course, beats the living daylight out of him. One of the worst, parts of the film, which had me in shock while I was watching that part, was how Baby Fire and his gang had gotten information ahead of time that Reverend Timi's wife was going out of town. She was going to fly back to England with their daughter, and they had created a barricade, just outside the city. They went there, practically killed the driver, took over the vehicle, and drove her back to the churchyard, to the church, to the house where her husband had been kidnapped and was already undergoing a lot of torture. Well, one of the saddest and most gruesome things I had ever watched, I think I've ever watched in a film, was the few minutes, that passed when Reverend Timi's wife was made to sit inside the car. Timi was on the ground watching his wife. The car was doused in petrol or some kind of fuel, and it was lit on fire with a little girl and her mother in it. Gruesome. I told you we're full of spoilers on this channel, but please, I must say it was very well executed. The mood music, everything had me in tears. I was shocked, I was perplexed. It was a moment, that in the history of movies is one of the moments that you never will forget. Well, let's move on. He had, so his family was executed basically in front of him, and let's say at this point, Baby Fire had gone back home, and Reverend Timi remembered that he had some military experience. He went back and found out where Baby Fire was living, and well, he also in turn went and executed summarily Baby Fire. So we now move on to the next part of the film, where the former Reverend Timi has now become, an older version of himself. He's no longer a reverend. He doesn't want to hear the name of God. He doesn't want to have anything to do with justice or anything. He is, this secluded hermit kind of guy. He lives in his house alone, barely having house help around himself. And well, one of the other main characters is introduced into the film, and well, he drives into this city or into the village with his new bicycle. Would I say his bicycle? And well, his name in the film is Elijah. Well, Elijah came into the film at this point and he applies to be the house help, house manager, house boy for Reverend Timi. Wow, it was very, very interesting to see, that almost everybody who had come in to apply for that job were turned away. He would hold a gun, he would walk you away, he would chase you away. But when this particular young guy, Elijah Oduduwa Abasi Okon, comes into the picture, somehow he's able to disarm, with his charms and his with his ailment. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a moment. He's able to disarm Mr. Timi at this point. And well, he's employed as the new house manager. Well, one thing that's very significant and will play a role throughout the movie, and of course it's probably the reason for the theme Breath of Life, is that Elijah has a debilitating condition. He has an asthmatic history, and he was always, whenever he was under stress, whenever he was surprised, whenever he was worried, whenever he was confused, he would start having gasping for breath. He would have to use his inhaler. And well, so as he comes to work with Mr. Timi, it's made clear to him that he should never mention God. And there was a few phrases here and there, like when he said to him, "Who needs God when you have guns? Who needs God when you have guns?" Well, it was interesting to see the dynamics play out, how they became close, and before you know it, he had taught him how he wanted his breakfast. He had taught him his own ways in the house, and he began to teach him gently how the things about the world. It was a very interesting kind of father-son relationship. It grew on us. And well, a time came when Timi runs into a young lady in the city who is a nurse in the hospital, and he falls in love. Okay, and well, she comes around to falling also in love with him. Now, fast forward to the point where there is something going on in the city, especially as it concerns Elijah. Elijah had already decided that he wanted to be a man of God before he came to work for Reverend Timi. So it was just something that he was doing to maintain proximity to the church and, of course, earn some money while he was at it. And well, the church is now under threat. Fortunately or unfortunately, the antagonist, the person who is responsible for destruction of the church, who was, was totally behind the demolition of the church where it stood, is his girlfriend, Anna's father. So you see, there's a clash of interest. There's a conflict of interest there. And well, when he went to meet her father for the first time, he was walked out because they realized that he was the one who was the houseboy for Reverend Timi. By the way, Anna's father was very well to do, so he just didn't fit into the social circle. And of course, he wasn't just, and he's the reverend who works in the church that they were about to demolish, and he had written to their father, and well, they were just on totally different pages. So the father goes ahead to give Elijah about 90 days to come up with the money to pay for the land act, the land use of the church where the church was standing. And there's a panic that comes up from there. Anyway, in the long run, at the last minute, while they were about to bring down the church, the bulldozers were there, the people were surrounded there, there were security, there were guns pointed at the people who were rallying around the church trying to protect it, and they all had to flee. And at the last minute, secretly Reverend Timmy, Mr. Timmy at this point, for the love of his houseboy, his house manager and son at this point, had sent, his lawyer to get some facts saying that that land could no longer be owned by anybody, that it belonged to the British government and nobody indeed could take possession of it. So, well, the antagonist, Anna's father, had to step away angrily, and all of that. Well, at this point, Anna is locked into her house. She's not allowed to go out. Of course, she has disgraced, or she's on the other side. But she finds a way to escape, and then she goes to Elijah one of those evenings. By the way, Reverend Timmy, Mr. Timmy, had already become very friendly with Anna, and he knew about their relationship. Well, she went to him, and there was fondling, kissing, and all of that. And well, he goes into an asthmatic spasm, he was losing consciousness. He actually did lose consciousness, and he's rushed to the hospital, where accompanied by Anna and his boss, Mr. Timmy, where it is found out that he has some very serious pulmonary issues, with his chest, his lungs, and he just has a little while to live. So they asked him, well, they insisted that he be kept on oxygen while, they see what can be done. Well, because of the amount of wealth that Timmy, remember that he was one of the most successful this and that before coming into Nigeria. By now, he has made a lot of investments over the years that have grown and really, really made him one of the really very wealthy ones, in town. And well, he used a lot of that wealth, including the reach of his lawyer. And, whatever he could, he had reached out to people to see whether they could get new lungs, and new organs for his houseboy. And they were not successful. Well, at the very last minute, it is found out that, he decides that he was going to take laws, everything into his own hands. And remember that, he has amazing lungs. Remember that he was one of the best swimmers. He would stay for a very, very long time underwater. And unofficially, he was one of the world record holders for staying underwater. So he decides to give his lungs to the young man, his son. And well, that's where the movie becomes very, very teary. He decides to give his lungs. Well, he goes and puts his estate in order. He goes and visits his properties, and well, he puts everything in order, and there and then he donates his lungs to his son. Yes, he adopted his houseboy just before he called it a day. He adopted him, and well, that's the story. The story of a former houseboy turned son who loved his boss, who taught him everything he could, who was eccentric, was very, very unstable, and a lot of other things, but was a very good person at heart. At the end of the day, rest in peace, Reverend Timmy. But Elijah and his girlfriend Anna go ahead to get married. They go ahead, they get married, and well, it's happily ever after. My one question is, how come this movie is coming out, just before the awards? I'm hoping that it will get the accolades, the clouds, the noise that it deserves. This was a masterpiece. Eku Edewo, well done. Well done. Bibi Sasore, well done. Well written, well choreographed. The music was amazing. Everything. I cannot really find a fault apart from the irritation I felt when Baby Fire was bleating. Okay, guys. I told you you have spoilers. If you haven't watched it yet, I ask of you, please, this cannot replace the experience of watching that amazing movie, Breath of Life. Don't miss it. Go out there, go to the cinema, watch it. It's on Prime. Go get your own copy and comment in the comment section. Okay, all right, see you guys soon. See you soon.